Some of y'all are trying to build a money plan using advice that was clearly written by somebody whose paycheck lives in a different zip code. And I'm here to tell you, that is how people end up frustrated, guilty, and side-eyeing their checking account like it personally betrayed them. You saved a budgeting post from somebody making 3 times what you make. You bookmarked an investing clip from somebody talking like everyone has extra money just lounging around in a savings account wearing silk pajamas. Then somebody says, just save 20%, like they just handed you the sacred scroll of financial wisdom. When for a whole lot of people, that math folds like a cheap lawn chair the second rent, groceries, gas, and life itself show up. Here's the part almost nobody explains properly. Personal finance is not one size fits all. It is not a universal hoodie. The strategy that helps at one income level can become straight up unhelpful at another. Sometimes it gets less useful. Sometimes it starts actively working against you. The habits that help you survive and stabilize at $35,000 are not always the same habits that help you grow at 75. And the moves that look smart at 75 can turn into anchors once you hit 6 figures or more. You've probably felt that already. Advice that sounded useful when you first started making money can start feeling weirdly outdated once your income changes. Not because you got lazy, not because you got arrogant, because your constraints changed, your options changed, your margin changed. And no, before somebody gets dramatic in the comments, I am not a financial advisor. I am a cute avatar with strong opinions, decent pattern recognition, and the spiritual energy of a receipt that wants answers. But this part is real. The right advice depends on where you actually are. So in this video, we're breaking this down by 3 critical income levels: $35,000, $75,000, and $100,000 and above. Not fluffy advice, not recycled internet wallpaper. Specific priorities for the real trade-offs living inside each bracket. Because what matters most when money is tight is different from what matters when income is decent. And that is different again from what matters when your biggest financial risk is no longer just not having enough, but using more income badly. This is not about copying somebody else's money routine because it looked impressive in a podcast clip. This is about matching your strategy to your actual life, your actual paycheck, and your actual pressure points, because the wrong priority at the wrong stage can waste years. So if you've ever wondered whether you're chasing the right financial goals or just following advice built for a completely different tax bracket wearing your clothes, this is the conversation you needed yesterday. Your income level changes what deserves your attention first. So let's stop taking orders from somebody else's paycheck and start with the reality of $35,000. At $35,000 a year, your take-home pay is roughly $2,500 a month. That is the whole pie. Not the fancy pie on Pinterest, the real pie. The one that has to cover rent, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, and every little surprise life throws out like it woke up bored. I am not going to stand here in my nice, clean avatar glow and act like that is easy. It is not easy. At this level, every dollar has a job, a backup job, and an overnight shift. A $200 car repair is not a cute inconvenience when you make this kind of money. It can kick off a chain reaction. Late rent, fees, credit card use, more fees, stress. Then the stress starts billing you too. So the strategy at $35,000 is not about optimization first. It is about survival, stability, and building the floor under your feet so your whole financial life does not crack every time something small goes wrong. Quick timeout. If somebody making $300,000 tells a $35,000 earner to just max everything out, I need Tobin to bring out the emergency clown horn because that advice is wearing dress shoes in a construction zone. At this income, the first win is not looking rich. It is making sure one bad Tuesday does not body slam your whole month. That is why the first priority here is a starter emergency fund, not the internet fantasy version where everybody calmly saves 6 months of expenses while drinking cucumber water. I mean 1 to 2 months of bare bones necessities in a savings account you can actually reach. If your essential bills run about $2,000 a month, then your first target is $2,000 to $4,000 saved. That money is not there to impress anybody. It is a shock absorber. It keeps one surprise expense from launching you face first into high interest debt. And when money is tight, you build that fund the boring, beautiful way, automatically. Save 5 to 10% of your take-home pay before your spending gets a chance to sniff it. On $2,500 a month, that is about $125 to $250. Set that transfer to hit the day after payday, not next week, not when you feel disciplined. Discipline is flaky. Automation is loyal. Now, I can already hear somebody saying, "Biscuits, I cannot afford to save anything." And I get why that feels true. I really do. But when money leaves before you ever get comfortable spending it, something weird happens. You adapt. Your spending starts to fit the amount that remains. The random little leaks, the convenience buys, the subscriptions you forgot existed, the lazy charges that nibble your account at midnight like tiny financial raccoons. Those are the dollars that start getting redirected. Go back through the last 2 months of spending. Find the stuff you are not using. Call your internet company. Call your phone provider. Call your insurance. Yes, it is awkward. No, I do not care. Awkward saves money. A $10 cut here, a $20 cut there, maybe $50 somewhere else. That can be the difference between "I guess I can't save" and "wait, why is my emergency fund actually growing?" Small reductions are boring on day 1 and beautiful by month 6. And when you park that emergency fund, do not leave it in some dusty account earning decorative pennies. Put it in a high-yield savings account where it can at least pull its own little weight while staying accessible. Second priority at this level, high-interest debt has to get handled aggressively. Consumer debt at $35,000 is not just annoying, it is corrosive. It eats progress while pretending to be manageable. A $5,000 credit card balance can quietly burn more than $1,000 a year in interest. That is real money, money that could be building your cushion, paying for training, or giving you breathing room. Instead, getting fed into the mouth of old purchases you barely remember. Here is the move. List every debt. Write down the balance and the interest rate. Then pick a method. Avalanche means highest interest first. Snowball means smallest balance first. Avalanche wins on math. Snowball wins on momentum. Use the one you will actually stick to when real life gets loud. Once that starter emergency fund covers 1 to 2 months of essentials, shift your automatic savings toward debt payoff and go hard. Then, when the debt is gone, redirect those payments back into savings and keep building the cushion you always needed in the first place. Now, here is the third priority, and honestly, the one that changes everything most. You have to work on increasing income. I know that sounds obvious. I know it can sound annoying, but at $35,000, there is only so much trimming you can do before you are no longer budgeting. You are just suffocating politely. Rent costs what it costs. Food costs what it costs. Transportation costs what it costs. You can optimize a low income forever and still never create real wealth because the math is fighting you the whole time. The biggest lever is not shaving another $6 off your life. It is increasing what comes in. That does not mean you need to wake up tomorrow and become a whole new person with a brand new career and a dramatic soundtrack. Start with the job you already have. Ask about overtime. Ask what responsibilities lead to raises. Ask what the path upward actually looks like. A lot of people never ask that question directly. They just hope somebody notices their effort like it is a Disney movie. No, you need information. You need to know what gets rewarded. At the same time, start building marketable skills on the cheap. Not a giant expensive degree detour unless that actually fits your plan. I mean free or low-cost training that increases your value in the real world. Tutorials, certifications, courses, skills your local market or industry actually pays for. Use nights and weekends if you have to. Slowly, consistently, no fake hustle speech, just steady skill stacking. Then look for side income that uses what you already know. Tutoring, freelance work, helping people with a skill you already have, small consulting, whatever fits. An extra $500 a month is not pocket lint at this income. That is $6,000 a year. On a $35,000 base, that is meaningful. That changes your margin. That speeds up everything. So the goal at $35,000 is not to become the world champion of squeezing pennies until they file a complaint. The goal is to build the foundation, a starter emergency fund, no high-interest consumer debt, and a real plan to raise your income. That is how you stop living financially cornered and start building toward actual wealth. Now, let's talk about $75,000, which is where money gets a little more interesting and a lot more dangerous. Because this is the zone where you finally have some breathing room, but you are still one string of bad decisions away from building a very polished-looking mess. Your bills are probably covered. You are not living in constant financial panic anymore. But let's not get dramatic and start acting like this is yacht money. It is not. You are in the middle. And the middle is powerful because it gives you enough income to make real progress, or enough rope to quietly tie your own finances into a decorative knot. If you are around this income range, you are doing better than a huge chunk of the country. That is good. But it also means your decisions start carrying real long-term weight. At this level, habits stop being small. They start becoming multipliers. First strategy at $75,000. Collect the free money your job is offering before you do anything cute. If your employer has a 401k match and you are not contributing enough to get the full match, you are basically leaving part of your paycheck on the floor and moonwalking past it. And no, that is not exaggeration. Employer matching is one of the closest things personal finance has to actual free money. If your employer matches 100% of your contributions up to 5% of your salary, then putting in 5% means they put in 5% too. That means your money just doubled before the investment even had time to put its shoes on. A guaranteed 100% return at the starting line is not normal. No stock picker with a podcast microphone can promise you that. At $75,000, 5% is $37.50 a year. Add the employer match, and now you are putting away $7,500. Run that over years with compound growth, and suddenly one boring payroll setting starts acting like a quiet wealth engine. Set it up so the contribution comes straight out of your paycheck. That is the trick. Money you never see does not tempt you. Your spending adjusts to the lower take-home pay, and life keeps moving without all the internal debates. Then go a step further. Open a Roth IRA and put in what you can, up to the annual limit. In 2026, that limit is $7,000. And the beauty of the Roth is that the money grows tax-free and can come out tax-free in retirement if you follow the rules. That combination, full employer match plus Roth IRA contributions, is where your money stops behaving like a random pile of good intentions and starts acting like a system that keeps building even when you are busy, distracted, or just trying to get through Wednesday without buying overpriced tacos. Second strategy at this level, full financial automation. At $35,000, you may need to watch every dollar because the margins are razor thin. At $75,000, you finally have enough cushion to build a money system that can run without you constantly hovering over it, like a sleep-deprived accountant goblin. Here is what that looks like. Payday hits. Before you touch anything, money gets routed automatically to where it is supposed to go. Some goes to the Roth IRA, some goes to savings buckets with actual names and actual purposes. Down payment, travel, car replacement, emergency cushion. Bills handle themselves through auto pay. What stays in checking after that is real spending money, not fake spending money. Not, I forgot the electric bill exists money. Real money. And that changes everything. Because now, saving and investing are no longer optional acts of heroism. They are built into the plumbing. This is why automation matters so much. You do not need willpower. You do not need a better mood. You do not need to remember. If 1 month is chaotic, 1 month is expensive, and 1 month your brain is basically mashed potatoes, the system still runs. Automation also protects you from the dumb, expensive stuff, late fees, missed payments, random credit score damage because you forgot due dates while being a human being with a life. Bills get paid on time. Savings keeps growing. Credit improves in the background. The setup might take an hour, maybe a little more if you like poking around every setting like you are defusing a bomb. After that, you check in once a month, make sure everything is behaving, and keep moving. Wealth starts building quietly while you go live your actual life. Third strategy at $75,000. Stop obsessing over $3 questions and start aiming your brain at $30,000 questions. This one matters a lot because once income reaches this level, tiny optimizations can start turning into mental clutter. At $35,000, cutting a daily coffee habit might actually move the needle. That is not fake. That can matter when the margin is tight. But at $75,000, spending all your mental energy trying to save $4 here and $5 there can become a distraction from the moves that actually change your future. Questions like, should I cancel this streaming service to save $3? Or can I shave $5 off groceries this week? Are not evil questions. They are just tiny questions. And tiny questions can eat a lot of mental bandwidth while producing very tiny trophies. The bigger questions are where the power is. How do you position yourself for a $15,000 raise over the next couple of years? Are your investments sitting in expensive funds with unnecessary fees? Could you increase your savings rate by 1% a year? Are you building the skills or visibility that lead to advancement? Each one of those questions can be worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands over your lifetime if you answer them well. That is where your attention belongs now, not in a cage match with a coupon over $4 and a yogurt discount. So yes, keep tracking your spending. Know where your money goes. Cut the obvious waste. That still matters. But once the clear nonsense is gone, stop trying to squeeze blood from a well-organized stone. Put that mental energy toward bigger levers, bigger systems, and bigger outcomes. At $75,000, the game is no longer just avoiding financial pain. It is building momentum on purpose. And that brings us to $100,000 and above, where the opportunities get bigger, the mistakes get more expensive, and the rules change again. Now we get to $100,000 and above, which is where regular money advice starts getting weird, because once you hit this range, whether that means exactly 100 grand or way beyond it, you are no longer dealing with the same problems as somebody trying to stretch every dollar just to stay upright. You have real income now, real options, and with that comes a whole different category of traps. First strategy at this level: get painfully clear on what your money is actually for. I know that sounds philosophical, like something printed on a candle next to a yoga mat. But it is practical, deeply practical, because a shocking number of high earners are making good money with absolutely no precise idea what they are trying to build, beyond vague words like freedom, security, and wealth. Okay, but what does security mean to you specifically? What number actually makes you feel secure? What does freedom look like in real life? Not in some glossy stock photo where everybody is barefoot near a laptop on a beach they definitely are not working from. What are you actually trying to do with your money? Because if you do not answer those questions, high income often turns into one of two things: endless accumulation with no purpose, where you keep stacking money just because that is what you think you are supposed to do, or mindless spending, where you buy more and more simply because you can, without checking whether any of it actually serves your values. Here's what usually happens when there is no vision. You earn more, so you spend more. The apartment gets upgraded. The car gets upgraded. The vacations get upgraded. The clothes get upgraded. Not because you sat down and said, yes, this is the life I want, but because your income rose and the world quietly handed you the costume people in your bracket are expected to wear. Then 5 years pass, and now you make way more than you used to, but somehow you do not feel much richer. You have nicer stuff, bigger bills, maybe better lighting, but not necessarily more freedom, because your expenses rose alongside your income, and your savings rate just stood there, blinking. The better move is defining your rich life on purpose. What experiences matter to you? What do you actually care about buying more of? Time, flexibility, travel, peace, creative freedom, family support, a paid-off house, early retirement. Pick the things that are real for you, not the ones people clap for online. When you know your target, you can reverse engineer the math. Now your savings rate has a reason. Your investment strategy has a reason. Your timeline has a reason. Your money finally has a job bigger than just sitting there looking expensive. Second strategy at this level: audit your investment fees like somebody might be quietly nibbling your portfolio in the dark. Because once you have real money invested, fees stop being background dust and start behaving like long-term termites. A 1% advisory fee sounds harmless, tiny, decorative. It is not. On a large portfolio over a long time horizon, that tiny fee can eat an enormous chunk of your future. That is why high earners have to stop hearing percentages as if they are cute little numbers. A 1% fee on meaningful assets is not pocket change. It is thousands and thousands of dollars over time, and eventually much more than that. That is not a rounding error. That is a financial haircut with a chainsaw. And a lot of people at this income level have accidentally collected what I will politely call a money guy. Somebody managing their portfolio, taking a percentage, and maybe not doing much more than placing them in the same broad funds they could have bought in pajamas. Now, to be clear, not every advisor is useless. Some people truly need guidance. Complex tax issues, business ownership, estate planning, behavioral coaching, unusual situations. Those can absolutely justify expert help. But the question is simple. What are you paying, and what are you actually getting? If you are paying a percentage fee for somebody to put your money into the same low-cost index funds you could select yourself in under an hour, that is not premium service. That is expensive convenience wearing a tie. At this level, flat fees or hourly planning often make a lot more sense than percentage-based fees that keep rising forever just because your portfolio grew. The more wealth you build, the more important this question becomes. Because the difference between paying a couple $1,000s a year for real planning versus giving away a percentage on a large portfolio is money that could stay compounding for you instead of compounding for somebody else. Third strategy at this level, and honestly one of the biggest wealth killers for high earners: lifestyle inflation. You have heard the term. You probably think you are too smart for it. That is adorable. Most people are not immune. Lifestyle inflation is sneaky because it does not kick the door down screaming, "I am here to ruin your savings rate." It shows up one polished upgrade at a time. Each one feels reasonable. Each one feels earned. Together, they quietly eat the very gap where wealth is supposed to grow. You get a raise, so the apartment gets nicer. Only a few hundred more a month. You worked hard. The car gets upgraded. The payment fits. You start eating out more because you can. Vacations get fancier because what is the point of grinding if you do not enjoy life? And none of these decisions feel insane on their own. That is exactly why they are dangerous. Then a couple years go by and your income is way up, your lifestyle is way up, and your savings rate is standing exactly where it used to be, maybe worse. All that extra earning power got translated into consumption with shrinking returns on happiness. That is the thing people do not love hearing. Beyond a certain point, extra spending does not keep delivering extra happiness in a meaningful way. The new car smell wears off. The bigger place becomes normal. The upgraded lifestyle stops feeling special and starts feeling standard. So the fix is not pretending you still live like a broke college student. That is fake discipline and usually not sustainable. The fix is upgrading your lifestyle more slowly than your income grows. If income rises 20%, maybe spending rises 5 or 10. The rest goes toward wealth building. That widening gap is where wealth accumulates. That is the magic strip. That is the runway. So every time you get a raise, decide ahead of time what percentage goes to lifestyle And what percentage goes to investments, savings, and long-term freedom? Write it down before your new salary starts whispering nonsense in your ear. Because if you do not make that choice intentionally, lifestyle inflation will make it for you automatically, and it is extremely good at spending every dollar you forget to assign. Fourth strategy for high earners: start questioning whether the default milestones people worship even make sense for your specific situation. Because once you have real options, you do not need to live on autopilot just because culture handed you a checklist. At lower income levels, a lot of decisions are constrained. You need affordable housing, functional transportation, basic coverage. But at higher incomes, you get actual choice. And choice means you are responsible for doing the math instead of copying assumptions. Homeownership is the biggest example. American culture treats buying a house like the obvious wealth move. Save a down payment, buy the house, done. But once you can afford to choose, the answer is not automatically yes. For some people, buying absolutely makes sense. For others, it does not. At higher income levels, you finally have the flexibility to run the real numbers instead of repeating the old script. Mortgage interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, opportunity cost on that down payment. All of it counts. Then compare that to renting and investing the difference. In some markets, especially high-cost ones, renting and investing can outperform buying by a lot, not emotionally, mathematically. The down payment can keep compounding. The monthly cost can stay lower. The flexibility can stay higher. This is not me telling everybody to rent forever. Calm down, housing comment section. This is me saying run the numbers for your actual market, your actual timeline, and your actual priorities. If you are staying put for a long time and the math works, buying can be great. If you value flexibility or ownership costs are wildly higher, renting may be the smarter wealth move. At lower income levels, sometimes you live where you can afford, and that is the end of the conversation. At higher income levels, you have more room to evaluate carefully. That means you should. Options are only valuable if you actually examine them. Across every income level, a few rules never stop mattering. The first one is simple, and yes, it is still undefeated. Spend less than you earn. That gap between what comes in and what goes out, that is where wealth is born. Protect that gap like it owes you rent. At $35,000, that gap may be tiny, but it still matters. At $75,000, it can grow fast if you systematize it. At $100,000 and above, it can disappear just as fast if lifestyle inflation starts eating like it pays no taxes. The second rule is automation. Systems beat willpower at every level. At lower income, automate the emergency fund. In the middle, automate bills, savings, and investing. At higher income, keep expanding those systems so more of your good behavior happens without daily effort. The third rule is income growth. Financial optimization has limits. Income growth has a lot fewer. At every stage, invest in the things that raise your earning power: skills, relationships, visibility, leverage, positioning. Most of the time, the biggest financial move is not squeezing harder under the current ceiling. It is raising the ceiling. And the fourth rule is purpose. Money without purpose usually turns into one of two weird hobbies: collecting numbers with no joy or spending with no intention. At every income, know what your money is actually for. Then make your behavior match that answer. Now, here's the part most people miss. The principles stay steady, but the tactics change. Where you focus, what you optimize, and which battles matter most genuinely shift as income shifts. At $35,000, the mission is basic stability. Build the starter emergency fund, kill high-interest debt, work on increasing income. At $75,000, the mission becomes capture the employer match, automate wealth building, and focus on bigger levers. At $100,000 and above, the mission changes again. Resist lifestyle inflation, audit investment fees, get intentional about what your money is supposed to build. Because once income gets high enough, sloppy strategy gets expensive in a whole new way. Following advice built for the wrong bracket is not just unhelpful, it can actively slow you down. The $75,000 earner obsessing over $3 questions is aiming a telescope at a breadcrumb. The high earner, still fixated only on a tiny starter emergency fund, may be ignoring much bigger opportunities. Match strategy to reality. The habits that got you to one level are not always the habits that carry you to the next one. As your circumstances change, your money strategy has to evolve with them. That is what real financial literacy actually looks like, not memorizing one list of money rules and chanting it forever. Real literacy is understanding that the game changes as your income changes. Different constraints, different opportunities, different priorities. That is also why I made a full breakdown of financial literacy beyond just income-specific moves. The bigger framework, how to think about money clearly, how to build wealth from wherever you start, how to avoid the mistakes that trip people at every stage. So if this video helped you see what matters most at your current level, or what needs to change as you move up, that deeper breakdown will help you make smarter decisions with a lot more confidence over time. Because your income is probably going to change. Maybe it already has. And every change brings a different test. The people who build lasting wealth are not always the flashiest people. Usually, they are the people who notice when the rules of their situation have changed and they adapt before their old habits start costing them. Now you know what matters most at each level. You know what deserves your attention and what can be deprioritized. You know that advice designed for somebody else's paycheck might not fit your life at all. So now the real question is whether you are going to use that knowledge or just nod at it like it was a nice podcast clip and keep doing the same nonsense. Do not be most people. Figure out your bracket. Focus on the strategies that matter there. Build the foundation that prepares you for the next level. Then, when your income changes, change your approach with it. Your income level is not just a number. It is a set of pressures, advantages, and decisions that should shape how you move. Start acting like it. And with that, go do something useful with your money brain. Check out the ebooks and check out our many financial calculators and other resources, links below. Because wandering through your financial life with no strategy is a bold choice, and I would really prefer you not make bold, stupid choices recreationally.